The following video may contain language and jokes intended for a general audience of over 13. As a whole, Robot Masters are pretty damn awesome, but then you have those odd ones that will probably outsource to some unpaid interns. Whether their stage sucks, fights a complete joke or cheap as hell, or the weapon's completely worthless, they're not getting away. Anyway, let's go. Ever first saw a Robot Master and just think, what on earth? Yeah, that was me when I first saw Bounce Man. And unfortunately, his design is the least of his problems. Because yes, whilst his stage can be fun and has one of my favourite stage themes, it's let down by some of the most annoying enemy placement. And also, whilst his weapon is good because of its coverage, it's severely outclassed. The Tundra Storm can wipe the screen immediately. But what sealed his fate on the list was the boss fight. Not because of his attacks, I mean they're all slow and easy to dodge even without speed gear. Except for when he used speed gear, and even then it's predictable where he's going to bounce off to. Here's my real problem with this fight. Overall, this guy was just a waste of a slot. The best part of Mega Man 10 over 9 was the DLC, except for Enka, who was a real pain to get through. Let's see what we got on this stage. Annoying disappearing block sections, annoying dropping down with spike sections, and annoying screw sections. And then you start the fight against Enka. Lovely. And he's a real pain in the bum, since he moves around the arena way too freaking fast and unpredictably. And most of the time, he'll either deflect your shots or absorb them to send a counter wave back. And of course, there has to be no energy tanks. I had a nightmare getting through this, especially when dying sends you right back to the beginning of the level. His weapon's not even worth it. If you want something to protect you, just use the water shield, because that'll actually damage enemies on contact. Also, the counter projectile it has usually misses. At least Punk and Blade were fun to go after. It's kind of a shame when a Robot Master does alright in most categories, but just one aspect of him screws him over. I mean, I like his design, his weapon is a nice screen nuke, and his stage is tolerable for the most part despite its length, but his boss fight is a serious pain in the arse. His homing electric shots can easily clutter the room, and the tendrils can easily overwhelm you quickly. But the worst of his attacks is the lightning bolts, since the locations they're going to strike aren't telegraphed, so it's practically luck-based to dodge them. That is, unless you have the copy vision, which thankfully you will have at this point, because that'll absorb all of his electricity, making him an absolute joke. But that one aspect I said earlier screwed him over was that goddamn healing. When he's low on health, he'll jump right in and heal himself until that charger is destroyed. And without certain weapons, that can take some time. Sadly, even with all of that, he's not the worst fight in the game. They say you should be judged based on the inside rather than the outside. Well, that definitely applies to Dustman because he's absolute rubbish. All he does is send out his Dust Crusher, which is easy to jump over, and try to suck you in, which you don't even have to slide to get out of the way from. His stage is more of a threat than he is. Only 5 seconds in, and I'm already getting blindsided over a bottomless pit. It's a nightmare to get through these guys without the skull barrier. Here's the problem. Skullman is weak to Dustman's weapon, and then it's near impossible to not take a hit here, because there's no room to evade the metal shots when the ceiling is down. Sure, his Dust Crusher is an alright weapon, but everything else about this guy really isn't all that great. At least they got this kind of concept right later on in the series with Jumpman. Mega Man 6 is my favourite of the NES game. I absolutely loved the idea behind the Robot Masters, with them all being based on 8 countries around the globe, all taking part in a fighting tournament. I just have one problem with that. How the hell did Platinum get to the last 8? He must have had an easier run than England did back in 2018, because this guy is an absolute joke. All he does is put up his plant barrier, jumps, throws the barrier, then charges at you. Rinse and repeat until you've easily taken him out with the buster. He never even uses that buster on his right arm. Not that would save him from his design. I mean, seriously, based on a flower. Quite literally the least intimidating thing you could have based him on. And that plant barrier is absolute rubbish, since it dies in one hit, and it can't be thrown. Actual rubbish is a better shield than this. Probably the worst part of this guy, however, is his stage. The first half is completely fine, but the piranhas in the second half caught me out more times than I care to count. Overall, he's a massive stain on my favourite NES game. Like I brought up before, Mega Man 2 was the game that introduced me to the series, and it's one of my favorites despite being very flawed. Some areas have aged pretty damn well, while some others haven't. Isn't that right, mate? Mega Man 2's stage selection was already a bit hit and miss, and this stage is definitely a miss, alright. The first half of this stage is basic platforming with infinitely spawning enemies that are piss easy to deal with, and the second half is annoying because of the disappearing blocks. Thankfully, you can just use item 2 to evade the blocks at the end over into the kill lava, or have fun getting across and dumping yourself into the lava. Your call. I even had an issue during recording where the damn blocks wouldn't even spawn at all. His fight isn't even all that great. The flame pillars might get you, but his flame charge is easy to jump over, and he'll always do that when you shoot him. But the worst part of this guy is the weapon he gives you. Most of the weapons in this game already got overshadowed by the metal blade, outside of weaknesses. The Atomic Fire doesn't even achieve that, since it takes forever to charge, so by the time it is charged, you could have killed them with another weapon. You're wide open whilst it is charging, and worst of all, you only get 2 full shots per tank. It's a total waste, just like He-Man himself then. Dr. Kosak isn't very good at creating Robot Masters in my opinion, because Mega Man 4 has by far the worst lineup of Robot Masters in the series, but picking the worst of the bunch, oh that was easy. Toadman is so goddamn stupid for many reasons. You see, first of all, he's named Toadman. Second of all, this second snail mini-boss puts up way more of a fight than Toadman could ever dream of.
That is bullshit!
As a whole, his stage is one of the better ones in the game, but all the Pillock does is try to summon Acid Rain, which is unavoidable, and jump towards you when you shoot him. But since you'll be shooting him all the time, you'll end up with a fight that looks like this. I mean, seriously, this looks like something I'd expect from a minor enemy. Out of all the animals you could have gone with, you chose a toad, and sure, whilst this weapon is a nice screen nuke, it doesn't excuse this pathetic design and fight. Like, seriously, why did they think it was okay? Mega Man 5 has some really cool ideas for levels, such as the Galaxy 2 Flipping and Gravity Man stage, the Low Gravity and Starman stage, and this Wave Rider section and Wave Man stage, which really makes generic mounting stick out like a sore thumb. All you gotta do is go through the level, shooting down the enemies in your way, and even then that's not very challenging. Oh, just like the Robot Master himself then. All he does is send out slow moving rocks that are easy to avoid and since it's Mega Man 5, the weapon's obviously not all that great, since they spread out way too fast. As such, it's unlikely they'll hit anything that isn't at point blank range. I've heard some people say it'd be easier to aim if the stones rotated clockwise, but that wouldn't fix the speed they go out at. But to be fair, I wouldn't expect much from a Robot Master who's just a pile of bricks. What killed Mega Man 8 for me was the stage gimmicks, and the worst offender was by far these snowboarding sections look like they could have been loads of fun, but they have 2 critical flaws. One, there's several blind jumps, requiring ludicrous reaction times to make, and that's even assuming the game picks up your jump button at all, because I've lost count of how many times that has happened. So these sections just end up being jump, jump, slide, slide, fall, fall. The rest of the stage is alright though, and it has a nice stage theme. But the battle with the Stone Blizzard Man hybrid on steroids is an absolute joke. All of his attacks are incredibly slow and telegraphed very far in advance. Even with the Buster, I was easily able to dispatch him first time round. His weapon may be decent on grounded enemies, but that's not going to make me forget those snowboarding sections and how piss easy his fight was. Mega Man and freaking Bass. I was able to beat the 8 Robot Masters, but no freaking way was I going any further than that. Stages and boss fights in this game were an absolute nightmare, and the worst offender was by far sure, his design and weapon are alright, but this guy is a massive pain in the bum to get through. There's enemies all over the damn place, these spikes pop out randomly, and don't be surprised if you have to resort to a hit here, because those insta-kill flames are not patient. But probably the worst part is the gaps carved over those spikes, as the ice wall is the only way you'll know where they are. But that's a problem because that is his weakness, and he does not let you breathe in this fight at all. Dashing around, throwing grenades, laying traps that vanish into the ground, and trying to burn you which can corner you. With or without his weakness, his fight is much fun to deal with as a broken too. To be honest, looking back, I really should have just stopped the game as soon as I got to this guy. This has been Spit Inkling. I'll see you later, mate.